As a musician, one thing that is absolutely necessary when on stage is to be able to hear yourself. Traditionally, this has been done with floor monitors. It's a simple solution that isn't too expensive but can still put a decent dent in your pocket. Wireless in-ear monitors have also been around for a long time, but they've tended to either be really expensive and reliable, or cheaper but not reliable. Over the last 5 or 6 years, the reliability of affordable in-ear systems has gone up, and now we're starting to see more reliable systems being released with even lower prices. Take this Phenyx Pro PTM-33 for example. It's a 4-channel system currently available for $490. That's only about $123 per channel. But can this budget system replace your floor monitors? Let's find out. Phenyx Pro has been around for a while now. I reviewed their PTM-10 system 3 years ago and am still using it at gigs today. So when they contacted me and asked me if I wanted to review their PTM-33 system, I took a quick look at the product page on Amazon, saw stereo inputs, and said, hell yeah. Well, they do have stereo inputs, but each channel only has a mono output. This was an oversight on my part, and I should have known better by either reading the full product description or realizing that $123 per channel for stereo was way too good to be true. In any case, Phenyx Pro did provide me with this unit for review, but I am under no obligation to make a good review, and they won't be seeing this video before it's released. Before we get into comparing the PTM-33 with floor monitors, let me give you a few details about this system. Like I said, it's a 4-channel mono system with stereo inputs and outputs for each channel. I'll get into how that works later on. This unit is on the 900 MHz ultra high frequency spectrum. They also sell a version on the 500 MHz spectrum, depending on your geographical location. The system comes with a transmitter unit, 2 antennas, 4 wireless receivers, 4 sets of earphones, a power supply, 8 AA batteries, and a rack mounting kit which includes rack ears and all the accessories to relocate the antennas from the back of the unit to the front. Now let's get into the meat of it. How does this unit compare to a set of floor monitors? The first thing that might be on top of most people's minds, the cost. Like I mentioned earlier, the PTM-33 is $490. For a decent floor monitor setup, you'll need at least 2 monitors at the front of the stage and 1 at the back for a drummer. Obviously your setup might vary. I've always used passive monitors, and decent monitors that will be loud enough will run you about $300 each. Add in at least 1 power amp for around $500 or so, and $100 for cables, probably more. And that's a total of $1,500, 3 times the price of the PTM-33. Now you could go cheaper on the speakers and amp, or go with the active speakers, or many other ways. But this is just a basic overview of what my metal/rock band used to use, and it worked pretty well. My main point is this unit is much less expensive when compared to a floor monitor system. But price isn't everything, is it? With this system, each channel can have its own mix, whereas the floor monitor example would only be able to have 2 mixes at most. If you wanted more mixes, you need more amps and/or speakers. What's interesting about the PTM-33 is it has stereo inputs and outputs, so there are a variety of ways to connect to this unit. You could go the normal route and connect 4 separate outputs from your mixer to each channel on the transmitter. That way you have 4 separate mixes. Each channel on the transmitter has an additional input. If you use that input, both inputs would be summed together and sent out to the receiver. I'm honestly not sure why you would need to do that, but you have the option. You can also send each output from each channel out to either another device or another channel on the transmitter. This way you could have one mix for all 4 channels if you wanted. These additional inputs and outputs might be useful to someone, but I'm not quite seeing the appeal. With either the in-ear system or floor monitors, you would need a mixer capable of sending multiple mixes. I suggest one of the Behringer X32 mixers. We use the X32 rack. It's absolutely amazing for live use. Another great thing about in-ear monitors, the mix is the same everywhere. Stage left, stage right, back of the stage, back of the bar, anywhere. This is compounded by the isolation you get with in-ears, so you don't hear as much other noise on stage. Like if you walk over the other side of the stage where your amp is quieter, but the other guitarist's amp is louder. Now you can't hear what you're playing. I'll get more into the earphones that come with the unit later on, but they do a pretty decent job at isolating the outside sound. This system also has plenty of volume. Not only do you have a receiver volume control, but you have a volume control for each channel at the transmitter. One of my favorite things about in-ear systems is the reduction of feedback, especially from vocal mics. I don't know what it is about some vocalists, but they love to point the mic down. With floor monitors, that's a recipe for major feedback. This won't happen with in-ears. Transportation and setup is another huge bonus for in-ears. This transmitter weighs 3.4 pounds or 1.5 kilograms. Each floor monitor is going to weigh 35 pounds or more, and the amp could weigh upwards of 40 to 50 pounds. Less weight when setting up for a show is always a plus. And with a rack mount kit on the PTM-33, just throw it in a rack and forget about it. With an in-ear system, setting up floor monitors is something you can take off your list. It will also save you space on stage, and you won't have to run extra cables. There is one caveat. You might have to change the frequencies for one or more channels on your in-ear system. Fortunately, changing frequencies is really easy on the PTM-33. Each channel has 3 groups with 5 to 10 channels per group for a total of 25 separate frequencies per channel without any overlap between channels. Just select the group with the group button, then select the channel with the channel button. Once your frequency is selected, hold the receiver you want to sync in front of the transmitter and hit the respective sync button. Within a few seconds, the receiver will sync with the transmitter and you're ready to go. Adjusting the frequencies is something you'll want to do after you've set everything up, but a good idea might be playing some music through your mixer and listening through each transmitter while you set up. If you hear dropouts, try another frequency. Placement of the transmitter can be crucial depending on your setup. I found when placing it in the top of our rack, which ends up being at an angle, we had a lot of dropouts. I don't know if being at an angle affected it, but mounting it to the front or back of the rack and outside the rack seemed to work great. So if you're having issues, try moving the transmitter around. Another bonus with in-ear systems is the reduced power consumption. This system only uses maybe 20 watts. A floor monitor system is going to use a lot more. This could be an issue at small or remote venues where power is limited. I've pretty much covered all the reasons why you might want to choose in-ears over floor monitors. But what are some of the possible downsides or things you might worry about with an in-ear system? First would be the body pack and earphone wire. There's no getting around the body pack, but they're light enough and the clip on these packs is strong and is very unlikely to pop out of the body. To help with the wire, I'd recommend getting one of these clips to hold the wire to the back of your shirt so it won't pull on your ears. Another possible downside is that every musician on stage would need a body pack. If you have the PTM-33 and 4 musicians, then you're golden. There are a couple other options though. You could add an additional in-ear system. Phenyx Pro has a PTM-11 and PTM-22 if you wanted to add 1 or 2 channels respectively. You'd have to be careful for frequency crosstalk, but the manual shows you the channel frequencies so you can avoid that. Another option is to add additional body packs. Phenyx Pro sells them for $70 a piece. You'd have to sync it with one of the 4 existing channels on the PTM-33, so 2 or more receivers would receive the same mix. The body pack does run on 2 AA batteries, but you won't have to worry about them dying during a gig. The battery life spec from Phenyx Pro is greater than 6 hours. I tested the battery on all 4 of these receivers with rechargeable batteries, because you shouldn't be using disposables. Rechargeables are way more cost effective. In my testing, I got between 18 and 19 hours of runtime on the body packs. That is more than enough to last a whole gig plus some. One odd thing I did notice though was with the battery bars. There are 4 battery bars and more than likely they're calibrated to alkaline batteries. Because the voltage on rechargeable batteries is going to decrease slower than alkalines, then drop off sharply at the end of the charge, the battery bars aren't going to decrease evenly. The reason I bring this up is because on 2 of the receivers, once they hit 3 bars left, they had 16 hours remaining. On the other 2, 6 hours. At 2 bars, the first 2 receivers had 4 hours left and the second had 2 hours. Because of this, I would recommend putting a fresh set of batteries before every gig. Another issue you might have to worry about is the range of the receivers. They claim a range of 164 feet or 50 meters. Once I got all my channels and antennas sorted out, I walked from my basement to the 2nd floor of my house without any dropouts. If you set the transmitter close to the stage, you'll have more than enough room to walk around on stage and even into the crowd a bit, if you wanted. And if you're worried about any delay or latency from this system, don't be. I measured 0.1 milliseconds or 100 microseconds, which is the same amount of time it takes sound to travel 1.4 inches or 2.5 centimeters. The last thing we need to worry about is the audio reproduction, both from the output of the receiver and the earphones themselves. Let's go over the earphones first. They're really not the greatest, and I honestly didn't expect them to be, considering people can be really picky about their earphones. They don't produce lows very well and are overall pretty muddy. They do stay in my ears pretty well even when I bang my head around. Their sound isolation is similar to the Shure SE215s, which is good, but the SE215s sound way better. If you wanted to upgrade all of the earphones to SE215s, you're looking at another $400, which almost doubles the cost of the system. There are lower cost earphones out there, I just don't have experience with them. These stock earphones could definitely get you by until you decided to upgrade. Phenyx Pro specs the audio reproduction from 50 Hz to 16 kHz at ± 3 decibels. My measurements were well within that range. At 50 Hz, it's about 1.5 decibels low, and at 16 kHz, 1 decibel. You can see the signal starts to attenuate at around 10 kHz. Comparing the audio reproduction with a direct connection using some headphones, I could hear the attenuation in the highs. It's certainly not a deal breaker though. The lows sound pretty good, and I can hear everything in the mix really well. I am a strong proponent of wireless in-ears, and I think Phenyx Pro did a good job designing this system. If you're interested in picking one of these up, check out the links in the description. I do get a small kickback from Amazon, which helps keep this channel going. But hey, until next time, rock on.